So today we're taking a peek at this. This is from bnlink. It's a point source instant water heater. Essentially, it's a small 10 liter or 2.7 gallon tanked water heater that you would place at the source or at the point of use. In this case, let's say you have a sink out in the far section of your house. Maybe it's a laundry sink, kitchen sink, bathroom sink, or a garage sink or something that is so far away from your water heater, you throw it on and you have to wait and just wait and wait and wait for it to get hot. Now, there are multiple ways around that issue. There's recirculating things. Those can get a little bit pricey. This solves many issues at once. So you can put this at that source and have hot water almost instantaneously. It's a small electric water heater. And outside of that, you can put it in a location that doesn't have hot water from your water tank currently. So maybe you have a faucet or something that's in a garage or something that you don't have hot water going to. This can also solve that object, I guess. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbox it. We're gonna set it up. I'm just gonna set it up in my bathroom sink, kind of as a test. And we're gonna go through different ways that you could actually set this up and what you could do. So without further ado, let's get it out of the box. Okay, so I have it cut open. Just tape sealing it. So on top we have kind of looks like a product manual, probably an installation guide. I'll have to look into that. Do have some Teflon tape and some kind of plastic washer there. We'll look into that. Looks like we have a pressure release valve, relief valve that is not pre-installed, so we'll have to look into that there. And then just power cord that's probably attached, I would assume. Okay, no plastic wrapping on it. So lift that guy out. Yep, exactly like I said, the power cord is pre-attached. You don't have to worry about that. Just a simple valve here for how hot you want to get the water. No digital sensor here to tell you what temperature the water is coming out at, whether or not that makes a difference to you. But that is something that this does not have, just a simple dial. Pretty simple. Light indicator that probably tells us when it's actually heating, and then all the warning labels and such. We do have on the top a cold water inlet and a hot water outlet, and then that pressure should go right there. Wonder if you have to, how you get that off. I'll have to look into that. So that's what we have there. I'm gonna put these back on so nothing drops down in there accidentally while we're getting it set up. So they say in the instruction that the pressure relief valve definitely has to go in it, which makes sense. I just don't see how you can release this cap. Okay, so yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to use a screwdriver to pop that guy out. It just has a couple of ribs on it. So if you're installing this, know the instructions are going to tell you what to do, but you just grab a small screwdriver and kind of work your way around. Maybe two screwdrivers, one from each side, and pop it right out. That would make it a lot easier. Now we're going to get the pressure release valve on. So I do have that white kind of washer. I'm going to put that on the top just like that, basically matching what they're doing with the red and blue ones. Now I do want to put the thread tape on here. The Teflon thread tape. So we got that all good. It's not going to get in the way there. And I'm going to insert this down into here with, I guess I could probably put that on there first. Might be easier. There we go. And then make sure we're not cross-threading. Slowly work our way. Now, I probably will have to get a crescent wrench or something to tighten this down so that we're not going to leak. So my crescent wrench wasn't big enough, but my small pipe wrench is just big enough. And so I'm going to get that on there nice and tight. That'll work for now. There we go. Now we should be set to actually look at getting this. Now, here's one thing that we're going to talk about is how to set this up. Okay, so now we're going to go over about the connections. So I was going to do this in my bathroom. I really was all set about doing it. And then because of how cramped it is, I can't get the camera in there very well while I'm doing this. And I've run into this into a situation when I was doing some videos on some faucets. So I made a quick setup, and I'm going to do some adapters on this to kind of indicate what's coming in. So my cold water source coming in is this, just a garden hose in this case, with a Y on it, so I have two outputs. Now you could put a T, you could put a bunch of different things, but this is going to be my point source of water is my garden hose, and this is going to connect to the cold water input on the water heater. Now, in order to put that on there, I do have to put some Teflon tape on both the cold input and the hot output on this water heater. And if you are ever doing Teflon tape, you want to make sure that you're wrapping in a way that as you're tightening the threads on, it's not going to unravel it, essentially. I was looking at the owner's manual as well, and at the placement that they put the relief valve, and they had it pointing off to the side, so I just tightened it a little bit more to have it pointing out the side. Not that it was really that big of a deal, but did want to make sure I pointed that out. Okay, I have Teflon thread. Both these caps are removed, and then I have my adapters that I have to put on here. Now, adapter number 1, this guy is going to go on the cold water. So whatever you, obviously this is just going to indicate whatever hose or whatever you have coming in. Now this is a 1/2-inch brass fitting on here. So I had to adapt it to the 3/4 inch garden hose, which is what this adapter does. So I get that on, I can tighten this up. Now, I don't have to put it on the garden hose because it actually has a rubber gasket in that. That's a compression type fitting. There we go. Now I have my second adapter that takes it from 1/2-inch brass to 3/8 inch compression, which is what the hose that came on this in most cases for bathroom or kitchen faucets. So I'm going to go ahead and put this guy on quick. Then I will have the 2 hoses. Now I have the cold water hose. That's this one. It's actually indicated with a label on it called cold. That's going to be the one that's coming directly out of off this T here, or this Y. And I'll tighten these up here in a second. And then my hot water hose to my faucet is going to come out of the hot water outlet of the water heater. Now, I may have some leakage just because of the garden hose. Looks like it's slightly leaking. Yeah, it's the garden hose itself that's leaking, actually, not the threads. But now, we should be set up. I'm going to purge the system of air. We want to get this full of water before we plug it in at all. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the water line on to the hot water side. Purge the air out, so I want to turn the faucet on. Now, it needs to fill up with 3 gallons of water in here before it'll actually, or 2.7. Before it'll actually come out of there. Looks like I do have a slight leak on this fitting here. Hey, there we go. Now you can see nothing with the cold water yet, just with the hot water. Now I'm going to actually turn on the cold water side. That shouldn't have much in it, so just some whatever's in the hose. And I do have some leakage. I'm going to take care of that real quick. So I've got pretty much most of the leaks. I have a real small one yet, I think right on this where the rubber gasket. I think I just have to tighten that up just a little bit, but it is just very slow one. So I'll take care of that off camera once I get this going. So I wanted to get this turned on, and everything right now is fully functioning cold and hot water. We have this full of water. That's when we're going to want to turn it on. I am going to get it plugged in here. Now you do want to make sure you plug it into a ground protected outlet. So on here right now we're turned off. We know we're full of water, so we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and turn it on, and we're going to set it down here to ideal. Ideal's probably in that 120, 125 degrees range. That's my guess, right in there. But so we're on ideal, and it's going to just take a little while for it to actually get to temperature. So we'll give it some time. So I wanted to go over this stuff real quick with you because the reason that it's leaking is my fault, without a doubt. And I don't do a whole lot with Teflon tape myself. Most of my stuff is compression or sweat fittings or whichever, but with Teflon tape, you just do want to make sure that you have enough on there. If you don't have enough on there, you'll get what I have right now, where it's just a slight leak. And so no matter what, you want to make sure you test these before you walk away from them and call them good. In this case, this is obviously a temporary setup. I'm just creating this for this. So I got this to the point where there's a slight leak, and that's my Teflon tape piece here. I just need to put more Teflon tape on there. I'll probably do that while we're waiting for this to heat up anyway. But I did want to point that out. When you're doing these, just make sure you put enough Teflon tape on the threads before you put the, you connect everything up. So there's I guess a little tidbit for you. Well, it's been just about 20 minutes. And it's off. Now, it may have turned off a few minutes ago because I ran upstairs to check on something, but it didn't take that long for it to heat up the 2.7 gallons that are in there. Okay, so now, moment of truth, we're also going to check the temperature. I grabbed my pool thermometer, and so that's what I'm going to actually use here. And so cold and hot. All right, so that's hot. That's quite hot. All right, we're going to get this in here. I'm going to actually just let it keep flowing over. 120, 119 is what it's calling right now. Make sure I'm in the thick of it. Yeah, I'd call it 120 degrees. That's what we're getting out of that ideal temperature, which is pretty much right down the middle of exactly what I thought it was going to be. Because in all reality, the efficient range of hot water, 120 degrees is about right. Now that's typically 122 is what they want you to set your water heater to as an ideal temperature. Problem with that is, depending on how many people that are in your household, is how much hot water you have before you run out if you have a tanked water heater. In this case, because it's a small tank that's just for the sink or faucet, wherever that you are at, that ideal range is probably about all you need. You don't need to go too much more than that. And it keeps it more efficient, so you're not overspending for the electricity to heat the water. Now, the second thing I wanted to check, let me grab something. Now I have one of those older power meters, this little Stanley one. I used to have a watt meter, but I can't find where I placed that. Now this guy tells you basically how many amps that you're drawing, but also the cost per month. Now that cost per month is based on the amount of amps you're drawing at that second, or at least over the time. So right now, because we're drawing 12.4 amps, if this was to run constantly all month long at its high setting, and I'm going to verify, I'm going to set it to its max setting quick, just to make sure. 12.5 amps is what it's running. Now, if this was on and you were running hot water constantly through it, at 12.5 amps, that's $125 a month. Estimate, right? Estimate. Now, the electrical rate can change and vary. But that's not a ton, but at the same time, this is only going to run periodically. So that's going to come way down. I wouldn't base that on that. But while it's heating water, it's running 12.5, 12.6 amps. The other thing that this will tell you is how many watts or kilowatts that you're using. So right now we're at 1.5 kilowatts, so 1500 watts. That's the heater source that's in here that's drawing that 12.5 amps, is that 1500 watt heating element. So that's what we're getting. The amount per month, that means nothing because you're using that. It's the same thing if it was to plug it into about anything. If while you're running at a peak, peak heating, it's gonna cost money. But once you're off of that, it's feathering to keep it hot. It's not going to be that crazy. So is this product for you? It comes down to how you would use it. In my case, I could actually see this using out in my basement garage. It never gets even close to freezing out there, but it'd be nice to have hot water on demand, and it's the furthest away from my water heater than most things because the pipes have to go up all the way out and then kind of around and then back down the wall. And I had my hot water line that was out there burst a few years back several years back when the garage door got left open. The cold water line works great. So in this case, I wouldn't have to redo the plumbing out there of where the burst pipe is because it's in a spot that I can't easily get to. I'd have to pull down a whole bunch of stuff. This would actually mitigate that. There are instances that this makes sense in some houses. Sometimes it doesn't. How it works and is it for you, it's hard for me to say, but it is pretty neat. A small little water heater like this, all electric, so you do need to have an electric hookup, and that should be a GFI or a ground fault hookup for power. Outside of that, pretty simple. Now in my case, obviously I rigged it to work in this specific scenario, but it was easier for me to show you how this worked in this environment than it would have been climbing under the cabinet to get it installed. This can, just be set down on the cabinet underneath. So there's multiple ways that you can mount this in the cabinet or just set it in the cabinet. And then of course power is power. If you have any questions, comments, let me know below or head over to techgooch.com and you can get a hold of me directly. But I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching this video. I will say that the manual that comes with this thing is very basic in its terminology information on this. It's just not great. They claim that it's 2.7 gallons or 10 liters. They claim the heating element's 1440 watts, which is probably about right because this just says 1.5, so it rounds it up slightly. All in all, pretty cool product. It works really good, and my little rig station is, I guess, if nothing else, set for the future if I want to do more videos on other products that do this. So I don't plan on getting rid of this. This is my little rig. So thanks for watching to the end of this video. We'll catch you back here on GeekSmart for another future video setup tutorial. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.